These poor kids of Flamingo Shifter. Props to the narrator. You are the real MVP. It's so freaking cute. Livid. And I really could not stand it. I have been sleeping on her. My blood was boiling. Just look at all the emotion in that. Bitch, you crossed the line. We gotta execute you. And I just wanted to see the justice. Come to find out, he's a vampire. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Thanks for stopping in, it's great to see you. Today we have a newer filming area. Currently it is very cold outside, and where I have all of my books in my little she shed, it is freezing. So we're doing it in a new spot today inside the nice warm toasty living room. Today I'm talking about the books that I read in September and October. Now I did fully plan on doing a September reading wrap up. However, right around the time that I would have filmed and edited it, I fell sick. And no one needs to see my nastiness like that. So I decided no big deal, I'll just put the two of them together. I do create timestamps for almost all of my videos. So if there's ever anything that you want to skip or move ahead to or move back to and watch again, I have all of that down below in my description that is easily accessible to you guys. So if you feel like you don't want to listen to my September reads, go ahead and skip to October, or vice versa. Let's get started with September books that I read. In August, I started reading the Percy Jackson series, and I had the best time rereading that series. And then I continued on to the Heroes of Olympus series. First, we started with the Lost Hero. This series also follows Roman gods this time. And kind of what happens is some of our heroes from the previous series go missing, and then some new heroes show up, but they don't seem to know the Greek gods as well as they know the Roman gods. It's very fun. We kind of mix in some Roman mythology in there as well. We meet some new characters. In this book, we meet Piper. I love Piper, and Jason and Leo. And Leo I have kind of like a love-hate relationship with because he is very humorous and weird and like quirky, but he makes some dumb mistakes and says some dumb things, but we still love him. I love Festus the Dragon, one of my favorite characters or side characters of the story. This one I gave it 5 stars for nostalgia. It is also one of my favorites of this Heroes of Olympus series. I just love the adventures that they go on. Next we have Son of Neptune. We finally get to see Percy again. He wasn't in the first book of the series, and so we finally get to see him again. We get to meet Hazel and Frank. I love Hazel. It was in this book that I kind of was like, these poor kids, because it's non-stop. Like, when do they get a break? They don't. Spoiler alert. Then we have Mark of Athena, and this one's getting into over 500 pages, Mark. Let's see. This book is 574 pages, and it was this book that I kind of started getting a little bit weary of how long they were, how much happened to these poor children, and just like wanting the end for them. Not necessarily for me, but for them. Like, I just wanted them to be able to relax and like have their quests be over. One thing I've really enjoyed about these series is that there were like 3 or 4 point of views that they stuck to rather than all like 7 or 8 of the main characters. So I really enjoyed that they chose a few to do the point of view from, and that we really got to learn more about and understand and see things from their point of view. This one focused a lot on Annabeth, and just poor Annabeth. This next book was House of Hades. I ended up giving this one a 4 stars. This one was a little bit darker and harder for me to get through because some of the characters end up in Tartarus, and it was just a little bit darker than some of the other books in the series. It was still great. I still love these characters so much. I just wanted things to go well for them. Then we have the final book of the series. It was a good conclusion. I was just happy for them to get the rest and relaxation they deserve. After this, I was kind of weary of the series. I did try jumping into Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, which is kind of the next book in that world, even though it focuses on different gods. However, I got about halfway through and decided to soft DNF it. And if you don't know what soft DNF means, it means that I'm putting it down for now. I do want to try and finish it later, but right now it's just not the time for me. I'm not enjoying it in this mindset right now. So I did end up putting that down. I know a lot about Greek and Roman mythology because of my personal interest and a little bit because of school, but I don't know very much about Norse mythology, and I felt like Rick Riordan was trying to cram so much of it into a book. It was like a history lesson, but not in a fun way. And Magnus is just a lot. Magnus is a lot. So I think that I am gonna put that down for a little bit longer and see how I feel about it. The next book that I read was absolutely ridiculous, but it was also a fun time. I got it during the Stuff Your Kindle event, and that is The Flamingo's Fated Mate. It is the first book in the Lawn Ornament Shifter series by Elva Birch, and it was so weird, but so what I needed in that moment. I enjoyed it. It was a 3-star read for me. It was very short and sweet. I believe it's less than 200 pages. Yeah, it's only 111 pages. I read it in like an hour or so. It was just a good time. It was silly. It was sweet. Basically, this one guy is a flamingo shifter. He also makes lawn ornaments, so maybe that's why it's the Lawn Ornament Shifter series. Maybe they all make lawn ornaments, or maybe they all look like lawn ornaments. To be seen in the future. Then we have my next read, and I am so glad that I finally got to this, and that is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. It was my top read of the month. Absolutely. I loved this so much. It was just so cozy and wholesome. I loved some of the topics that they discussed, and it was discussed in such a delicate, kind way. I loved our main character. I loved the magic. I loved the found family. It was just so excellent, and I immediately wanted to turn around and reread it. I loved this so much. I cannot wait to reread it again and annotate it and just like go to town on it. It was so special, and I cannot wait to pick up Sangu Mandana's next book. Then we have Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and illustrator Faith Erin Hicks. This graphic novel is so cute. I love the artistic style. I love the facial expressions and sassiness of our main character, Deja. She is just great. I loved her so much. Basically what happens is that they've worked at this pumpkin patch together every October in high school, and so they're seniors. It's their last one. Our main male character is kind of bummed. He never talked to the girl he had a crush on, but his friend Deja is like determined for him to do everything that he never did on his last day working there. That includes talking to the girl. So they go on like this wild goose chase trying to find her, and like trying all the snacks they never tried, doing all the things they never did before on their last day of the pumpkin patch. It's so freaking cute. There's a map. Who doesn't love a map? So cute. And then just look at all the emotion in that, like him blushing and her just like, bro. It was a 5-star read for me. I will be rereading that for sure. Okay, let's talk about some books that I DNF'd in September. First, we have Magnus Chase, which I already talked about. Then we have Float by Katie Marchant. I don't think this was bad at all. I was enjoying the writing style, but I just was not feeling the story. I don't think I'm the target audience anymore. I think I absolutely would have loved it in high school or in middle school. It's about a girl who just does not feel like she knows who she is, what she wants. She doesn't feel like she belongs. Her parents are academics, and so they're working on this giant project, so they send her down to Florida from Alaska to live in Florida with her aunt for the summer. And so she just feels out of place. She's never lived in somewhere this warm before. She doesn't have friends, so she's trying to figure these things out about herself. And while I enjoy stories like that, it just felt stagnant to me. And I'm not saying that she wouldn't go through some character growth, but I just was not patient enough with the story to wait that long. I think that there's just an audience that would enjoy that book a lot more than I do at the moment. Next, we have They Wish They Were Us. I think that these kind of mysterious underlying tension books are just not for me. I just wasn't into it, and I think that I'm learning that like if they're high school aged and they're like in a fantasy world, I'm much more inclined to reach towards that than I am like elite, super rich, high school drama problems. I'm just not about it anymore, and you know, that's okay. I think through this book I have finally solidified and understood that about myself. That's okay. We're gonna move on, and hopefully I won't reach towards those kind of books anymore, so that I don't have to DNF any more of them. October was a really good reading month. I tried to focus on my October TBR as well as finishing some of the books that I had been reading and trying to finish for a while. At one point this month, I was reading 16 books at a time, you guys. Yeah. But I finally got it down to 8 currently while also finishing some of my TBR, so it's a win-win for me. So first, I read and listened to The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. I have been fascinated by this book. The synopsis sounded so good, and it was interesting. I enjoyed it at certain parts of it, but again, this is that like very mysterious underlying tension kind of book that I think I've decided is not my cup of tea. So this was a 3-star for me. It was enjoyable. I don't regret reading it at all. I kind of saw the ending coming, but at the same time I didn't. I did not like our main character though. She was just kind of waffling around and feeling sorry for herself, wasn't doing anything, and then all of a sudden like halfway through she's like, I'm gonna do something about it, and then she just did a whole 180. So I was like, why did I read half of this story where you are waffling and kind of being a little brat and like feeling sorry for herself, and then you're a badass in the second half? So it was just like all of a sudden she was. Not my favorite. I don't regret reading it. Next we have The Skin of the Sea, which is the first book in the of Mermaids and Orisha by Natasha Bowen. The narrator of the story was so good. However, this story is very slow paced, and I'm just not a slow paced girly. I need more. Her writing style was very beautiful, but very flowery and very descriptive. I think if she cut out a bit of her description, it would have been a little faster paced, and I personally would have liked it a little bit more. It was very interesting learning more about the African lore and about like the mermaids and the different gods of African lore. That was really fascinating, and I loved that part of the story. However, I didn't fall in love with our main characters, which was difficult for me to finish. However, the narrator really pulled me through. Her voice is captivating and gorgeous. Props to the narrator. You are the real MVP. Next, I Married a Naga from the Prime Mating Agency. It's the second book in the series by Regine Abel. I Married a Lizardman last December and loved it, and I don't know what took me so long to read this one, but I read it in a day. I freaking loved it so much. I think it might be like a 4.5 or a 5-star read for me. I just enjoyed it so much. I love this series. It's monster romance. Our main character is a hunter. This one world where the Nagas live, they have this one species that during mating time just go ballistic and they destroy the ecosystem. They attack villages, so they invited these hunters to do a competition to try and get rid of that species. They're not allowed to like cross certain borders. They're only allowed to be in certain places, but she's very close to one of the borders hunting one, and she sees one of the species going ballistic across the line and start attacking this lady and her child Naga, and she crosses the line and saves them, but they're like, bitch, you crossed the line, we gotta execute you, or you can marry one of our people and become one of our people, then you won't have those laws against you. So she marries a Naga. It was a good time. Okay, the next book I read was Molotov Obsession. This is actually Angel's Cage, which is the second book in the Molotov Obsession series by Anna Zaris. So I finished the series, yay! Imagine, only like 100 more to go. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I did a video where I talk about all the series I'm in the middle of, and y'all, it's ridiculous. So I'm working on it. This book was good, but I like the first book more. Just not a lot actually happened, but Anna Zaris has an excellent writing style where there's a little bit of talking, a little bit of internal dialogue, and it flip-flops enough to keep it dynamic. But then when you think back on it later, you're like, wait, they literally haven't moved from this bedroom and it's been 7 chapters. And then the ending was kind of like something happened to one of these side characters, and for them it would be considered a cliffhanger. We don't know what happens to them, but there is another duology for her story that's supposed to answer those questions, but it just felt unsatisfying for this story. So I didn't really like that, but I understand why it was there and why it happened that way, but yeah. Next we have The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. This is the second book in the Mr. Wrong Number series. It follows Jack, who is Olive's sister from the first book. Jack is at his sister's wedding that Hallie ends up bartending. She's in her, let's say, her personal winter, where she's working her butt off to pay off student loans. She's working on herself internally so that she can have her spring. Well, after they have a one-night stand, she decides it's time for her spring. She wants to start dating again after a really bad breakup a few years ago, and gets on an app, a dating app. So does Jack, because his sister thinks he's lonely. They end up kind of matching jokingly and like teasing each other and like cheering each other on, and they create a love wager, a bet to see who can fall in love first. And then after every bad date that they go on, they meet up, they share their stories, they eat tacos, and then about halfway through the story there's like fake dating involved, and that's when things got so good. I would say the first half for me was like a 3-star. It was cute, it was happy, it was fun, it was simple, and then halfway through when the fake dating started, it bumped it up to a 4-star read for me. I was like squealing and kicking my toes, and there's a one-bed trope and they kind of like poke fun at it in the book. It was just really fun. Next we have Twisted Lies. I finished another series, you guys. I'm so proud of myself. If you are interested in more in-depth thoughts of this book and this series, please go check out this video where I rate the whole Twisted series and give spoiler-free thoughts. I love this book, 5 stars. Stella and Christian are my favorite couple of the Twisted series. I love the spice. It was so good. Read the series. Then I read I Married a Birdman, which is the 3rd book in the Primating Agency. This one wasn't my favorite. I just didn't love the world as much as I loved I Married a Naga and I Married a Lizard Man. I still really enjoyed it. Still like a 3.5-star read for me. I think what happened is that the bird people themselves are very dry. They just kind of tell it very plain and like it is. That's very much a cultural thing for them. But then our main female character is kind of a nurse or a doctor, and she also tells it very plainly. So when we flipped between points of views, it didn't feel different. It just felt plain and dry the whole time. That's why it wasn't my favorite of the series. However, I still enjoy it. I enjoy Regina Abel's creativity and her creation of these worlds and these characters and the circumstances that our characters are in. I just really enjoyed the series a lot. Then we have Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. This was my first Talia Hibbert book, and y'all, I have been sleeping on her. I need to go and read more of her books ASAP. I also listened to this on audiobook, and the narrators were so good. They were fantastic. I ended up giving this a 5-star. I loved the points of views. I know not everyone loves Celine, but I like her. She's prickly and she knows it, and she's really only prickly when other people are prickly with her. She'll only let her walls down if you let your walls down. She admits when she's wrong, and she's very loyal and protective, and both of these characters go through it, and they have some great character development. I love how Talia handled Bradley's OCD, and it kind of explained it a little bit more, and there were some things in Bradley that I could see in myself as well, and so I felt kind of seen, and I just loved the progression of their relationship and like their crushing, falling in like with each other. It was just so fun. And then I loved the nature aspects of things. I am a country girl. I love nature. This follows Bradley and Celine, who are academic rivals who used to be best friends when they were little. Bradley became popular and kind of left Celine in the dust, so she hates him now. It's their senior year or coming up to it, and there's a competition for a full ride scholarship, but they kind of have to go into nature and do these tasks and networking and kind of adventures and challenges in nature to win the scholarship. Sorry, I had to do a battery change, so if the angle is different, that is why. Long story short, I really loved it. It had a lot of elements that I personally loved, and I gave it a 5-star. The next book that I listened to in October is How to Keep House While Drowning by Casey Davis. Y'all, I had this on hold for 6 months. It was worth it though. I really enjoyed what the author had to say. There were some things that I already did and I maybe didn't need to hear, but there were also some really good takeaways. I loved Casey's point of being kind to yourself and that your house should serve you, not the other way around. You don't serve your house. You don't clean it so that you can have a clean house. You clean your house to have a functional house. And if you enjoy having it spotless and that makes you happy, that's great. But if it stresses you out and it doesn't bring you joy, it doesn't serve you, then don't do it. And here's how you can keep a functioning house. The next book that I read that has been on my TBR for a long time is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I tandem read this and I listened to it on audio and I read the hardback. It is about this lady in the present who just found out about the infidelity of her husband just before their 10-year anniversary and 10-year anniversary trip. So she goes on that alone, and while she's there, she discovers this kind of apothecary vial and decides to do a deep dive into where it came from and the history of it. And then we get the other timeline, which is way in the past, in like the 1700s, following this apothecary and kind of how her life and story went wrong because her mom used to be an apothecary to help women and to only do good, but something happened to our apothecary Nella that kind of turned her wrong into a very morally great person who still helps women, but mostly helps women destroy men. It's weird because normally I don't like these kind of multi-generational stories. They just don't call to me, but I enjoyed this. It was kind of cozy in a morbid way. I like the journey that our main character in the present went through. I really liked Eliza, who is another character of the story in the past. She was really cute and quirky. I would give it like a 3.5 or a 4-star. Then we have Ice Planet Barbarians. I did listen to the audiobook. I just discovered that if you have an Audible subscription, the Ice Planet Barbarians audiobooks are available for free in the Audible library. So I've been listening to them. It's been a great time. This series really is so silly, but it brings me a lot of joy and I have been really happy revisiting them. And they're so short. I listen to them at like 1.3 to 1.5 speed, so they go by so quickly. I can listen to them in a day or two and it's just a good time. The next book, you guys, The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. I have been reading this off and on since like May. I was not enjoying what was happening. Let's just say that misogyny is a motivating and plot driving factor in this book, and I really could not stand it. I just felt so bad for our main character because nobody believed her. First, her husband doesn't believe her, then she has friends and her friends don't believe her, then she gets them on board, but then they kind of like shun her because things don't go as planned, and the husbands are very much like, this is your place, you better stay in your place and do this, and you can't do anything else, and you're dumb, and this and that, and it made me so mad. I couldn't even think about the writing style. I was just so livid. My blood was boiling, but some shady stuff happens in the story, and I just wanted to see the justice. And there was at the end, but it wasn't worth it to me to go through all of that misogyny for it. So, not for me. This book made me so mad. Next we have The Dare by Elle Kennedy. I finally finished the Briar You series. Y'all, who is she? She finished 3 series this month. I'm so proud of myself. This follows Taylor, who is in a sorority. She is maybe a little bit thicker, maybe a little bit plus size, but she has some image issues and she has some enemies in her sorority who are kind of trying to embarrass her and dare her to go after this one really well-known womanizer and really like jock god hockey player, Connor. He sleeps around a lot, but he's kind of getting tired of that. He feels like a lot of them use him for his body, which he gets, but he's just kind of tired of it. So when Taylor comes up to him and is like, hey, I'm so sorry, can you just play along with me? Like, I have this dare, like, can you just please pretend to go up and like that we're doing stuff together? And he's like, this is interesting, okay. And they end up becoming friends. He sees her not being treated very well by others and kind of decides to fake date her. Like, he doesn't even ask her if that's what she wants. He's just like, we're just gonna pretend to be dating. Taylor has a lot of trust issues, and she also has a lot of body issues. She's very self-conscious, so that was kind of disheartening to see because that played a role in a lot of the book, a lot. And I still think that she was very self-conscious of her body by the end of the book, which kind of made me sad because I would have liked to see that be more of something she worked on. I loved Connor. He had golden retriever energy for sure, but both of our main characters just made some really dumb choices with each other, in my opinion, with how they decided to handle personal issues that I don't want to spoil for you. I still love Elle Kennedy's writing style. It is so smooth and easy to consume, and you just feel like you're right there with the characters. It's a good time, but about halfway through, the characters decided to make some really sketchy decisions, and I just didn't love it as much as I've loved some of her other books. Let's talk about my last few books that I read this month. The last physical book I read this month is My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine, or Jenna Levine. Very cute, very cozy, very wholesome. This one is so adorable. If you want just like a simple, sweet, good time. Not too much going on, but you're gonna have some warm, fuzzy feelings. This is a really good book for you. Basically, we have our main character, Cassie, who is a very artistic soul. She just feels like a failure because despite trying really hard, can't seem to find a stable job. She is kind of out of luck. She finds this listing online for a really cheap apartment that would help her kind of save up some money, and you know, instead of her whole paycheck going to rent, she can have a little extra while she gets back on her feet and finds a job that she's trying to apply for. So first, the rent is only $200, which is really sketchy, and then she decides to go meet him, and this guy is weird. He wears like three-piece suits with a cravat, talks very formally, calls her Miss Greenberg, and writes notes with beautiful calligraphy, and she's like, what's going on? Come to find out, he's a vampire. It's very cute and wholesome. I will say the third act problem was just dumb, but it was cute, it was simple, it worked out in the end, and so like it wasn't bad. It was just like, what? But that's okay. Taylor Swift is mentioned in this, which I know a lot of people have been just squealing over. Probably a 3-star read for me. I also listened to Barbarian Mind, which is the second book in the Ice Planet Barbarian series. This one follows Liz and Rahash. Both of these characters are so annoying on their own levels, but I love them so much still. Liz is just kind of annoying and a little bit of a brat, and even though she knows that Rahash does not always understand her language, because they have like this language translator device thing, she still uses a lot of slang, and then when he doesn't understand what she's saying, she's like, really? And doesn't really explain it to him. So bless Rahash, but Rahash is also very much like, mine, you're my mate, you're mine, and you're just like, dude, bro, get over it. Say something else. They're still fun. I love their journey together and how they slowly come together and come to like each other and love each other. And I love at the end where Liz is just like so annoying until she gets her man back, and I kind of adore them for that. Last but not least, the last book I finished in October is A Darker Shade of Magic, which is the first book in the Shades of Magic series by V.E. Schwab. This book really reminds me of Six of Crows, with the multiple points of views, the third person outsider perspective every now and then to give you like a broader sense of the world. There is magic. We love sad boy Kel. He's such a sad boy. He's so emo and I love him. He's so sweet. I freaking love Lila. Delilah Bard is like one of my new female characters, female crush. She really reminds me a lot of like Aylin or Nora from The Girls I've Been. I'm enjoying how this world is being built and where it's going. It's definitely very dark. There's a lot of action. V.E. Schwab does not mind taking her characters through it, and I was talking to my friend who has like recommended I read this series, and she really loves it, and I was like, I'm so scared because the characters went through so much in this book. Like, what about the rest of the series? And she's like, oh yeah, just you wait, but it's so worth it. So I'm like nervous to continue, but I definitely want to continue V. Schwab just has a gorgeous style of writing, and I love how she incorporates all of these senses. It's like she trusts you to get what she's saying, and I love that. I love when authors trust you to get what they're saying, even if they don't say all of it in so many words. Before I wrap things up, I do have 2 books that I DNF'd in October. The Duet with the Siren Duke by Elise. I was so sad, and I tried so hard, you guys, to get through this book, and it was just dragging so much. I think I DNF'd about halfway through. Just wasn't having a good time. I'm really disappointed because I literally just put up a video where I said Elise is an auto-buy author. She still is. This is my first book of hers that I couldn't finish, but you know, I feel like that happens sometimes, but I still trust her and her writing. It wasn't that her writing was bad, it was just I was not connecting with the story. However, I've heard a ton of other people who have really enjoyed this story and finished it and loved it. It just wasn't for me. Yeah, that was a bummer. Time to let you guys go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you're willing, I would love to know the books that you enjoyed the most in September and October. Please let me know in the comments. And if you made it this far, leave me a fall leaf emoji, because happy fall, y'all. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're doing well whenever and wherever you're watching this, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.